When you look at the zealots, what do you see? I just realized I have no idea what you guys are saying because this is a video. I'm just gonna talk about what I think and then you give me your thoughts in the comments, okay? Okay. When I look at the zealots, I don't see just another heretic squad. I see imitation. Imitation of the ultimate symbol of hope for humanity. In the Queen's eyes, the sole reason humanity survived thus far. The one thing the Queen has never been able to destroy. Goddess. Now obviously, this isn't the first time the Queen had an elite force, but the offspring has been heavily implied to be made solely by Mirror. This group has the Queen's fingerprints all over it, and whether it was fear or pure arrogance after being the absolute fuck out of Goddess, she modeled her newest heretics after the fairy squad she spent years trying to erase. But there's one critical failure in her logic. Not only has she copied what makes each of them powerful on their own, she's also mistakenly copied their weaknesses as well. Each and every one of these zealots reflect a struggle that the Goddess counterpart has overcome or going to in the near future. Especially now that the final boss has appeared in front of them, they're going to have to lock the fuck in and prove that they have surpassed the one thing that has held them back long ago. Themselves. Take Rapunzel for example. Underneath all of the horny nun jokes, her main leading trait has always been devotion. This devotion is one of the main highlights in Overzone. During this event, Rapunzel would constantly go out and pray as she believed through prayer she could hear the voices of the dead and grant them peace. This selflessness only got worse the more people that died during the operation, as her prayers only got longer. It got to a point where the others started getting concerned Rapunzel was busying herself with the dead more than the living, something that won't even hear, respond, or acknowledge this self-destructive, altruistic, disguised coping mechanism. Altrua's personality seems to best reflect this selfless nature as early as our first interaction with her. In chapter 44, her devotion to the Queen was prioritized above all else to the point of obsession. Nearly every single line of dialogue was dedicated to her creator, every action is done in her name, and every decision she makes is weighed on whether it serves her mother or not. Even Altrua's parting word shows just how deep this devotion runs. When Snow White and Rappy managed to finally damage her, she was deeply troubled. But she wasn't frustrated that she was outplayed. She isn't angry that powerful enemies interfered with her mission. She doesn't even seem concerned about the injuries themselves. She was troubled about how she let the body her mother so graciously gave to her get damaged, and even goes as far to ask for punishment on her way out. Just think about how absurd this is. This is a heretic. Regeneration is one of the key advantages the story has shown time and time again. A damaged body at worst is a minor inconvenience, yet she treats this injury like an obsessed K-pop fan forced to take a shower after the stand touched. It's a pretty warped reflection of Rapunzel. Throughout Overzone, Rapunzel devoted herself into constant prayer as a way to honor the fallen and cope with her unimaginable losses. Altrua shows the same amount of unwavering devotion, but directed towards the Queen instead, both dedicating themselves to something that will never truly answer them, as Altrua worships a mother who barely acknowledges her existence given her interaction with Liberalia. Now let's talk about Scarlet. Well, not this one, this one. Following the events after killing her sister Rose, she goes off to carry out the one thing Rose requested of her, to become stronger so that no one could ever control her again, which was a pretty noble goal on paper, but took an arguable turn for the worse. Scarlet developed an almost compulsive need to prove she was better and stronger than everyone around her during her time in Goddess, from challenging everyone to various asinine competitions in her Bond story, to throwing herself at Lil Weiss, the literal strongest Nikke in existence, and even when that went exactly how you expect, constantly pestering Dorothy to fight her. Her ego was even reflected in her swordsmanship, showing mainly in Red Ash through our Guardian. She would only attempt to one-shot her opponents through a perfect bisection as if they're trying to make a statement that no one stood above her. Ego Vista wasted no time making a show of her own strength. She engaged in her first meeting with Snow White and Nayata, swinging her comically large sword at them with enough force to split the ground and collapse nearby buildings, clearly intending to end the fight before it even began. Even when not transformed, Ego Vista swings relentlessly at her opponents, attacking any and all vital points and blind spots to quickly bring her fights to a close. She literally is that one guy that just spams heavies in games. And just like Scarlet, she had the need to make every fight decisive. When Eovissa won the fight against Rose because Rose's sword gave out, she found that fight regrettable. For someone whose identity revolves around having the need to prove her overwhelming strength against others, this is not a satisfying victory in the slightest, especially when moments before she was losing. Now finally, and the easiest one, Snow White. During White Memory, Snow White returns to Little Weiss's grave, only to discover that the Raptures have desecrated it by stealing her head. This single moment becomes the catalyst for her second mind switch. From then on, almost everything else pretty much disappeared. Her memories, her purpose, even what remained of her already fragmented identity. All that remains is the desire to annihilate every single Rapture. Snow White basically becomes a living weapon. Her entire existence revolves around this one objective. And that's exactly what Annihilio is. Though we're still uncertain about her main body, Annihilio's purpose so far has entirely revolved around exactly what her name suggests. Annihilation. Replicating herself and nuking anything in its way regardless of its friend or foe, leaving a highly concentrated poison after. Snow White was a living weapon against the Raptures, but Annihilio is just that in the most literal form. Even her second phase boss design is evident of this, just a body with no head holding up a replica of Snow White's weapon. There is no phase, no voice, and no identity to be had.
Well, besides the two giant warheads on her chest.
She is beyond all reason, only existing to destroy. But here's where I think the queen made her biggest mistake. She didn't replicate the current goddess, she recreated who they once were. A Rapunzel consumed by grief, desperately searching for voices that would never answer, a Scarlet whose worth was only measured through her strength, a Snow White stripped of everything but her desire to annihilate every Rapture. These are all things that they have overcome through decades of years of healing already. Snow White regained her purpose through regaining her lost memories and from seeing her best friend and mentor figure through another person. Scarlet transcended with her mind switch and will eventually fully heal when she interacts with Rose. Rapunzel no longer prays to try and hear the voices from the departed and instead actually carries the residual memories through golden particles. So I think when that day comes where the goddesses inevitably fight the past versions of themselves, there's no way they will lose. They've surpassed all odds before through sheer willpower and determination. Against Anichiro, against the mass-produced heretics, against the seemingly impossible odds in Arc Guardian. Each time they are faced with a seemingly impossible task, they always rise up to the challenge because their legacy far outweighs what any heretic hastily made could ever do. They are the goddesses of victory.
Then I also think Scarlet getting a new body would actually be a menace to society because what the fuck?